Hey, it's Doug Cunnington here, and I have my friend Beau joining us today. He recently hit $3,100 per month on his, affiliate and display ad site back in July. So, this is a great milestone. We're going to unpack all the details and really get into it. So, thanks a lot, Beau, for joining us today. How are you?
Good man. Mahalo for having me. Aloha from Hawaii.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember that you were like on the channel in like the chat pretty often, and you were like, "Hey, such and such in Hawaii," and I have fun. I've been to Hawaii just one time, but fond memories. Now, you were showing me before we started recording like what it looks like outside. So, would you mind just sort of
Oh,
holding it up again?
yeah, this is where I'm sitting. So
It's
yeah,
amazing.
right in urban Honolulu. So not of too many buildings, but still beautiful nonetheless.
Very cool. And for the people that are listening on the podcast, there were palm trees and like some nice little mountains, hillside, blue skies. It looked nice, I would say.
Beautiful day, man.
So, what is your current day job and profession? What are you doing in Hawaii there?
Sure. So my current day job is I work as a appraiser, a real estate appraiser. Also have done websites on the side or as a profession for most of my working life. So since pretty much since college, I've been building websites. It's not for myself for some reason, but anyway.
Gotcha. Very cool. And I highlighted a few of the details, but can you give us your like stats on the revenue and sort of the portion coming from Amazon versus display ads and a little bit about the traffic as well?
Right now, this month's been the best month ever. Last month was the best month ever before that. Last month was made about $3,100. That's profit. About 2,300 of that was from Amazon. The rest being from a combination of affiliate products and AdSense. AdSense was a very small portion of that. I think it was only about $100 last month. The rest being from affiliate ads.
Okay, gotcha. Well, congratulations. And how old's the site? How much content is on there? That sort of thing.
Sure. So I launched the first, well, I launched the site back in 2016. Just to give you a bit of a testimonial. So when I found your channel, it helped me kind of. Your channel is one of the things that's really helped me focus between you and Income School. And anyway, there's just two or three of you guys that I follow on YouTube that really helped me focus. So last year I just looked under the hood. There was only 50 posts on my site. Now there's about 150. So put 100 new posts on the site. Put a lot more focus in Amazon Associates. So last year at this time I was making about $1,000 a month. Most of that was actually from lead generation. The lead generation has gone down to almost zero. The site is totally flip-flop now, where the majority of my income is from Amazon. So
Okay, gotcha. And as far as the content, are you writing it yourself? Are you outsourcing it?
yeah, so now the majority of it is outsourcing. I write very little. I pretty much am in the role of editor. I do a lot of editing, but in terms of writing the content, actually, and again, another testimonial for you is I use your Upwork template to great effect. So we can talk about that more if you want, but it's a really effective strategy in terms of finding writers, building relationships with those writers, and kind of nurturing those relationships. I think I have a much lower cost per word for really strong, really good writers than most people in the space. So
Cool, thanks. I know that it takes a little more overhead. Obviously, you're doing the HR, the management, all that sort of stuff, but it is a fraction of the cost compared to when you outsource it. It's so expensive to outsource it to an agency. So, yeah,
sure.
we could definitely get into those details. Now, it sounds like you sort of like hit a stride in the last year, but let's rewind a little bit. You said you've built websites for a long time. So when did you start getting into like either affiliate marketing or at least trying to build a site as a side hustle so you can capitalize on the earnings?
Well, going way back to my first job out of college in 2005, I guess, I worked for the radio stations, and I started to study affiliate marketing, and I found a site called Wealthy Affiliate. I'm sure you've heard of that, familiar with that. So started learning about affiliate marketing, doing affiliate marketing, and I started with my relationships. The radio station would run radio ads to affiliate products, and that was kind of my foray into it. Made the radio stations a lot of money, and then for some reason didn't pursue it myself. Went off to Japan, taught English in Japan, but started building websites in high school. So, more than 40 now. So, geez, I don't
Wow.
want to think about
Yeah.
it.
I was gonna say I don't even think I didn't build. I'm basically the same age. I'm 41. I don't think I built my first site until like the first year in college or so. So what school did you go to?
Went to University of Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you from Hawaii?
I am. Yeah, I grew up on the smaller island. So I grew up on the big island, Maui,
Okay.
in Wisconsin of all places. But
Gotcha. Very cool. All right. So, like, moving on. So you knew that you could make money online. So 2016, was that the first time you were like, "Hey, I'm going to give it a shot on my own here"?
yeah, in terms of my own site that I was going to make a concerted effort to build out and make money from. Yep.
Cool. And it sort of didn't do much for about 3 years. So what were you trying? What really was working? It sounded like you were making about $1,000 a month, which is actually pretty good for a lot of people. And I'm sure, it's enough for some folks to pay for like a mortgage or whatever. So what were you doing back then?
Yeah, so I consider myself very lucky that I was at that point because, and we kind of talked about this in the pre-interview and just in terms of being super ADD. I'm sure a lot of your viewers can relate. Is I tend to chase shiny objects, or I have my whole life where I'm like, ooh, let me go get a
Yeah.
job. Like I've had 5 different jobs in the last 6 or 7 years. So anyway, so I think that speaks to that a lot. But sorry, did that answer your question?
Yeah, so you were jumping around a lot, so that's why you didn't really, I guess, get as much traction as you are now because you were kind of all over the place and you were doing lead generation and maybe some affiliate offers, but it wasn't very focused.
The $1,000 a month was off a very small amount of traffic too. So I was only getting about 3,000 page views. It was from lead generation. I got really lucky with a very niche keyword that I generated leads for an affiliate product that paid out really well. So that was the majority of that.
Gotcha.
Um,
And it fizzled out, you said. So did the traffic go away or did the affiliate program?
closed down when COVID hit, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I'd be
Gotcha.
probably making another 1,000, 1,500 a month just from that income stream if they hadn't closed that affiliate program down. So
Okay.
kind of
Understand.
sucks.
That is a bummer. So where's the traffic out at now currently?
So last month, I believe it was about 25,000 page views.
Okay.
Uh, this month, I'm probably going to hit 40,000. And
All
last
right.
month was the best month ever. So
Wow.
yeah,
Very cool. So you roughly 10x the traffic and a little bit more, but you're in a period right now where it's like pretty
right.
steep growth.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. For my niche too, admittedly, this is high season. So my site's going to peak for the next couple months, and then it'll peak again around the holidays, and then it'll probably take a dip post holidays, like most of our sites, I would guess. But
Many different niches have like the different seasonal portions. So it's interesting to hear just like some people, this is the high time. Other folks, it'll be the retail season. So with this, let's talk about the content a little bit for the site. And you
sure.
mentioned you've hired writers. You've been using my templates, which people can get freely. Just sign up for the email list. So, what was your experience, and had you hired writers before?
Yes and no. I have worked with writers before, much more expensively, I might add. But my experience with Upwork has been amazing. I mean, again, just using your template or your methodology in terms of putting out a feeler or a test project, saying, hey, if you want to get positive ratings, I'd love to give you a good rating in return for a low priced article. And from that, I've had 2 or 3 very strong writers that I still work with. When I put the project on, it was like $10 for 1,000 words, which for a good writer that writes better than me is amazing. And even now, I pay my best writer $30 for 1,500 words, so 2 cents a word, which again, I mean, can't beat that.
Yeah, it's a great rate for the quality that you're getting. And where are your writers located typically?
So yeah, again, I opened the project up to the whole world when I first started, and I kind of learned that there are writers in my space that are U.S. based. So I've just been working with U.S. writers lately because a lot of some of the bad experiences I've had have been with folks from other countries who write really good cover letters, have good resumes, but when they actually submit the product, it's like spun or so.
Yep. And I've tried to experiment, I should always test the assumptions that I have. And whenever I do open it up to the world, I end up with kind of garbage, basically. So I try to stick to UK, Canada, US, Australia. If someone is located elsewhere, that could be fine as long as they actually are truly a native English writer or speaker. So
Content on my site is very US centric, I would say. Maybe Canada a little bit, but yeah. So I need a US writer that anyway. So
sure. So with the content, are you providing like pretty tight templates for them to use, or do you let them run with it a little bit? How have you been working specifically once you get them on board?
I've learned that the more details or the more structure you give them, the better product they will produce, right? So at least what I'm looking for. So and that's something that's a work in progress. I have a writer now that came from one of those Upwork test projects that she's willing to write whatever, as much for me as I want her to write. So I'm actually putting together a template in Google Docs that has heading goes here, et cetera, et cetera. And this is something, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but part of my goal in the next couple of months is to really build out an outsourced team that's taking the different things off my plate. Like one of my biggest time sucks is posting the posts in WordPress. So that if I can just hire someone in WordPress to take the writing, turn it into H1 tags and the meta description and that kind of thing, post the header, that kind of thing, it'll really save me a lot of time and be much more scalable.
That was the number one thing for me. Like once I added a editor, content manager type person to draft in WordPress, then I could just like pour it on. And I actually just ended up promoting a writer who wrote a ton. They got a little bit bored, and then I created pretty simple job aid. I think it's about 4 to 5 pages or so, a couple screenshots, and pretty straightforward. So once someone goes through it a couple times, gets a little feedback, like they could just knock it out way faster than you or I, because you'll get distracted, right? So you'll start doing it. You maybe want to change an image or do one thing, and next thing you know, you're watching YouTube videos on whatever, cats, dogs, whatever.
Curious.
Sure.
Just curious. Question for you is what do you pay that person?
I pay hourly. Typically, it's between $10 to $20 per hour. So hourly is a more fair way to do that gig because they may spend more time editing. It may be a longer piece of content, so it just takes them longer to format it. And usually, like I said, $10 to $20 depending on their experience level and how much I want to keep them on board. So a lot of times you'll be able to pull them on for 10 to 12, and then if they are good and they're continuing to look for gigs, they'll probably be able to say, hey, I would love a raise, or I'm going to go take another job. So depending on who they are, I'd paid up to 20 per hour, but
I think
it's worth it.
Yeah, I think WordPress content management too is a very common skill.
However, if you try to hire a WordPress content manager, they may try to charge a lot more. But if you promote someone, similar idea to hiring a new writer, you're getting them to learn something new. They're taking on more responsibility than what they were planning on, and they're eager to learn typically. So
there's my answer. Sorry.
That's all right. No worries. All right. So content-wise, any other like cool things that you have discovered over time? So you're planning on adding a content manager soon to really scale it up. Anything else?
No, and again, I think it's something that when I found your channel and some of the other channels, it was just focusing on buyer intent content has really kind of exploded what I'm doing. And again, just off a very modest amount of traffic. If you're getting that traffic to buyer intent pages, you make so much more money.
Yeah. And it makes sense in a lot of ways, where if it's a little bit more focused and you know why they're there, which sort of leads us to keywords and keyword research. So what's your approach to keyword research, and I imagine from the various channels that you've checked out, there's probably a wide range of stuff that you've taken the approach.
Yeah, dude. I mean, keyword research is like a rabbit hole, and it's something like I was listening to an interview on WP Eagle, his channel the other day, and it was with like an ex SEO guy, and he was just going on and on and on about all these different keyword tools and how you can do this and how you can do that. I tried a bunch of them, but I find like your KGR method is brilliant. When I first started my big content push about a year ago, there was one of the KGR terms that I found that is now, because of COVID, is gigantic. Like, it's a freaking beast of a keyword. It's like 30% of my traffic from that one keyword. So anyway, yeah, it's a good thing. And the other thing that I really like is Keyword Shitter. It's free. It gives you a bunch of ideas. One tactic that I would highly recommend is to pay the $7 and do the Ahrefs trial. And then it's good for competitor research or competitor keyword hacking. So the way I've used that is you go on, you find and I'm sure a lot of the keyword tools do this. I just figured out how to do it in Ahrefs. But Ahrefs will produce a spreadsheet of all of the keywords that your competitor ranks for, and you can see what positions they're in and that kind of thing. And then you can then take those keywords and start writing content about those keywords as well. So That's the one, again, that I've used that in Keyword Shitter and KGR.
Perfect. And yep, SEMrush and Ahrefs do really well with that organic keywords that any website is ranking for. So you can go snag that data. It's actually great to pull it from, and you probably did this, 10 different competitor websites, sort of aggregate all the data. You can sort it however you want. And there's other metrics that you can go on. Like, let's say you want to find the KGR terms. So maybe you just look at all the terms that have search volume under 250 and then start sorting from there. So yeah, that's a great tip there. For the KGR, did you have like a certain number of KGR posts that you published out of those 100 additional posts in the last 12 months?
I would say probably somewhere in the range of 30 to 50% of the posts that I post have probably been KGR. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And then the others were just like good keywords that you just wanted to go for?
Exactly. And this is something too. Once your site gains a certain authority too, I think the KGR metric you can up your the ratios as well. Like, I've ranked for much more competitive keywords using that same but yeah, the KGR stuff, when you have a somewhat established site, you really zooms. Like, I had an article, actually this is a funny anecdote. I had an article a couple days ago that was a KGR term that went right to the top of Bing. And then Google was like a day later. Like, with Bing, it was a few hours. Google was a day later. And I'm already seeing 20 to 30 search hits from that per day. Because it's KGR, but because of what's going on with COVID, it's not really KGR. There's a lot of people searching for it.
Got it. Very interesting. And like, I think it's key to note what you just mentioned. And I try not to talk about it too much because there's like a wide spectrum of viewers and listeners in the audience. So yes, you can move the goalpost really for a KGR in the formula. Don't tell anyone, but basically it's great for a brand new site. But if you have a site that's been around for 4 years and you have like 150 pieces of content like you do, then yeah, you don't have to follow such rigid rules. Like, your site is going to react different than like a brand new site. And it should, right? Like, it's established, it's getting traffic, it's ranking for a bunch of keywords already. So it totally makes sense. And you could adjust a little higher search volume, for example. Maybe the KGR value doesn't have to be under 0.25. So you could kind of tweak things. But the problem, of course, you could imagine, Beau, is like, someone's like, well, you could tweak it, and then they put out a brand new site, and then they think, oh, I'm going to just change everything, and it doesn't work then.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Right now I'm working on it. So I just bought a site from Motion Invest, as well as I am building a new micro niche site. And for both of those, I'm going to be using KGR. And I have another site that I built about 6 or 7 months ago. So I have 4 sites, I think, in total. I have another site I built about 6 or 7 months ago that just came out of the so-called sandbox. I'm going to starting to get some hits on Google. And again, I think if I put some good KGR content there as well, it'll definitely position that site for a lot more success too. So I believe
Cool.
100% in it, and yeah, totally get it.
Let's dive into a couple of those other sites and then we'll swing back to your main site and talk about link building in a couple minutes here. But so for the site that just got out of the sandbox,
Right.
so you're seeing some hits right now, it's getting a little more traffic. How much content was on there? And like, do you actually see like, oh, this is right at, 6 months in one day?
Yeah. I wish I had looked at that specifically. I think the shitty thing is I misconfigured Google Analytics, but I did have Google Site, Google Page, Google Webmaster. What is that? You know what I'm trying to
Search
say, right?
console, search
Search.
console.
But I did have Search Console, so I was like, oh, I'm starting to get some traffic over here. The analytics. So anyway, I'll look at that. But I think it was right around 6-7 months that it started to see a little bit of traffic. That particular site only has 10 pieces of content on it.
Gotcha.
So to add some stuff to it now.
Interesting. Okay. And then for Invest, it's sort of a marketplace sort of scenario. So, yeah, what was the experience like? I haven't purchased anything from there, but I know the founders pretty well.
Sure. So yeah, I think they're really new to that kind of domain or website flipping space. So they send out a newsletter. They only have a very small amount of sites. They put out 1 or 2 sites every other day or something, or maybe 2 or 3 a week. It's not very many. And I had been meaning to buy a new site kind of under a $5,000 price point, and I saw one that came up at $2,200. I kind of snagged it right away. So yeah, they have some. I think overall it was a good thing. They have, like, I bought it on a Friday. They didn't. I don't want to talk bad about anybody. They didn't get back in touch with me until Monday about transferring the site, which I was kind of a little. It was the first domain I'd ever bought from a site, so I wasn't sure if that was normal. But once they got in touch with their transfer person, their transfer guy was just amazing. He was a guy out of Pakistan, but he was super helpful, super on it. So all in all, I mean, I would recommend them, but
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
And I think you're highlighting a good thing, the onboarding after something happens. Like,
Right.
you don't know what's supposed to happen. So it's like really important to set the expectations, like maybe even on their sales page, like after you pay, here's what's going to happen. If it's on the weekend, you're not going to hear anything until whatever the expectations should be. Like, as long as everybody's operating on the same like plan, then no one's surprised. But you were like, hey, I just sent over like a couple $1,000. What's going on here?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it was just one of those. It would be super helpful even if the auto email that goes out would say something to the tune of, this is our process. This is what to expect over the next few days. But when you're new to it, you're just like,
what's going on? Yeah.
$2,000. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I take it the plan for that one, pump some more content on there, low competition, and see what happens, or is it anything unusual?
It is. It's an unusual site. I'm excited about that. I bought it. It's going to be a lot of work because the site was written by a non-native English speaker, and there's a lot of every post pretty much has to be rewritten, and there's about 60 posts on the site. So that's a little daunting, but the site is somehow ranking for a lot of keywords. So, and I've made $7 or $8 in the 4 or 5 days that I've had Amazon associates on the site. So, earning a little bit. I'm confident that a year from now it'll have a really good ROI. So,
that's awesome. And do you have any opinion on like how a site like that with subpar content is making money and worth a couple $1,000?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's just a matter of there not being a lot of content around that topic on the internet. So Google has to show you rank something that's related. So
Gotcha.
So that's all the more reason to put out good content, because if you put out good content, you're that much more likely to to rank.
Oh yeah. I'd be interested, wonder if you go and improve some of that content, if it'll start ranking for like more long tail keywords and just get more traffic, even if you're not, really adding much new content, but you're just cleaning up the garbage that's there. For your specific site and, the link building that you're doing for it, can you tell us a little about that?
Sure. So very little, to tell you the truth. I've done a few guest posts, and this was just personal networking. So I'm in some groups on Facebook that are in my space that people have gone. I'm looking for people to write some content, basically guest post opportunities that weren't worded as guest post opportunities. So that's the few that I've done, maybe 3 or 4 guest posts. The rest of the links that I have to my site are all just organic.
And do you have any handle on how many links are pointing to your site?
There's a lot of, because I have a certain post type on my site that aggregates to a lot of spammy sites. I have a lot of spammy links, but I also have probably 50 solid good links from good follow links from good domains, even some up in like the 60s and 70s of domain authorities. So.
And those are just natural where someone needed a reference to some topic, you cover that topic, and they just want a reference. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. And do you have any like tips for people that are like, how do I get such links to happen naturally?
Post good content.
Yeah.
Post good content and networking too. I mean, if you're in, groups around websites in the niche that you're in, that would be kind of I'm trying to not give away my niche.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, there's good example. I'm not in any of these groups, but like I'm into homebrewing beer, and there are probably, I know there's big forums, but basically like if you're part of the community, then opportunities will show up even if you're not actively looking for it. But like if you just know people, things could happen.
Right. And it's sometimes it's just participating in certain discussions. I've had, well, one was just we started to talk to somebody on Facebook, and he's like, "Hey, I have a site." Like, "Hey, I have a site. Can I write an article for you? Because I heard guest posting was cool. It might be good for my site." So that's pretty much how that one happened. And actually, the link that I got from that, the post that I linked to is a subpar post, but because I have that one link from that quality site, it's like number 2, number 3 on Google, even though there are definitely some posts below it that I objectively are better. So.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right. Any other sort of, I mean, it sounds like you don't do too much active link building, but you do have the core links. Any other tips or observations, or maybe something you're going to try in the future?
Oh, I listened to your last interview. I think it was your last interview with the girl, and you guys were talking about Aro?
Yep.
No, that was the guy. I think it was 2 interviews ago. That sounds really compelling. If I were to spend time on trying to build links right now, that's, I think, the route that I would take, because that sounds like a great way to get links. It's the RO. Yeah.
Yeah. I am playing around with that, and yeah, it seems pretty awesome. I've heard from a lot of people who said exactly what you said. Like, that sounds pretty good. I may want to check it out. So I'll probably be releasing some information on like what's going on, and potentially a course actually on it, because there's a lot of details and stuff, and there will be questions, and I don't answer questions for free usually. That's the real deal. So it's just
especially
like,
if it's the same question that you've already answered 3 times. I noticed that happens a lot to you. So
it does. Yeah. You got and it is
still work.
I know there's some really great valuable information, and like to put it within a course, like to streamline the whole thing is something I'll probably end up doing with this. Okay, cool. I have some idea that this is probably a pretty big impact on your life, especially with the growth that you've seen in the last year, roughly 3xing, and now like you've really focused in. So how has this website impacted your life?
Oh yeah, man, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, so this month I think I'm going to hit, if not $5,000, at least $4,000 in terms of the income from the site. Probably be somewhere between there. And that's a full-time income for most people. So it's huge. The other thing too is for me, what's been really helpful. And again, I think it's something that I first thought about when I found your channel, and you were talking about how that first site that you had that you sold for like 120,000 or whatever that was, is to start to think in terms of the valuation of the site. Even though I don't think I'm going to sell my site my sites anywhere in the near future, just knowing that I now have a site that's worth $75,000 or $100,000 is just like the relief that gives you in terms of, bumps up my net worth by so much. And my family. It's huge. It really is. It's huge.
Very cool. Well, you definitely, I mean, you put in the time, you put in the work, and there are some things you can do to like shorten the path, but usually it's a zigzag path to get to where you're at, and it's rarely a straight line. So it's cool. Like you had the site in place, you were kind of maybe all over the place, it sounds like, with your ADD. And now you're like, all right, I'm going to publish content that could actually earn some money here. And it's working out really well. And I mean, this is after Amazon cut the commission rates. This is through like dozens probably of Google algorithm updates, and like things are going awesome. So congratulations.
Yeah, I've been lucky not to be really affected by the Google algorithm stuff. I think piece of advice I have there is just, again, put out good content. If you're doing that, I think you tend to hedge the algorithm updates. The Amazon Associates too, I was kind of lucky there in that my products that I promote were kind of in that 4% range that didn't really change. I mean, my overall hit was about 0.5% in terms of how much my commission's gone down. So it went from, on average, about a 4%, 4.1% down to 3.6%. Sorry, it's my nerdy.
Gotcha. No, people love that. People love that. So I think, aside from high quality content, any other tips where maybe more mindset for people that want to replicate what you have done here?
Sure. And again, this is something that I would really, it's just in terms of focus, especially for someone like me, someone that, ADD, it's really hard to focus. And there's so many shiny objects in terms of what you can do online. And usually someone that's looking to make money online or build a business online, I think your viewership has the right thing in that it's more of the tortoise than the hare, right? It's a long thing. If you start to see this from the long view, I think most people will be much more successful with that. Again, there's so many rabbit holes you can go down with, quick bucks, funnels. I mean, there's just so many different things you can try to chase. But the niche site model of just putting out content, good content, on the long run, I think is really the way to go. So.
I agree. Yep. I think I went on some tangent the other day on that very thing, where if you're looking instead of like 3 to 6 months out and you're looking like 3 years out, you can make much different decisions. You don't have to be in a hurry, and you really will. I mean, I think you will probably come out ahead. Anything that you can like do really quickly and like be successful super fast, like usually you can lose it that quick, or there's like 150 people like ready to step over your back to get where you're at. So
exactly, those kind of quick ways to making money are very easily stolen, and don't last. Yeah.
Very
the other
good.
thing I would just to build on that too is kind of my big thing right now is just in terms of posting content, right? I think the number one goal for any of us that are in this, building a business online is just putting out good quality content. There's so many different things that you can focus on, whether they be the tools that you're using or, different projects that you could be doing. But I think, my main goal right now is to get about 60 to 70,000 words of content out every month. I see that, this is a very scalable thing. If this works for, there's 150,000 words on my site now. If I have 1.5 million words on my site that are of the same quality and same, why can't I 10x my income, right? So that's kind of where I'm, my number one metric that I look at now is content, word count. Right?
Just getting it out.
All the other stuff is kind of, traffic, all of that, and that will come if you get out the word count. So.
Gotcha.
My 2 cents.
And what one topic that you mentioned before, Beau, and I completely forgot to bring it up earlier, but monetization, and you were talking about AdSense a little bit, and also you mentioned eZoic. So can you tell us about what's going on with that?
Sure. So the site. So I initially built the site out with AdSense. It made just pennies or a few dollars a day back when I was getting very little traffic. I then transitioned to eZoic, and they actually reached out to me to put my site on their network. And I was like, well, I don't meet the 10,000 page views a month threshold. This was back in December or January. They're like, okay, well, because of the quality of your site, we'd love to have you. and I was on the platform for a few months, and did pretty good. I mean, it made a few $100. It was like much more than I was making on AdSense, like 10, 15 times what I was making on AdSense. And they put ads in all the right places and that kind of thing. So that was great. And then my site crashed, like it just completely crashed. And I thought it was because of, and my thought was because it was because of Ezoic, because there were certain things. But it was, what happened is my SSL renewed on my hosting platform, which threw Ezoic for a loop, which then somehow is, couldn't explain the technical side of it, but somehow the communication between Ezoic and the renewal of the SSL crashed the site. So I took Ezoic down, been off Ezoic for a few months, and now I'm trying to get back on Ezoic and I reached out to them, and I don't know, they haven't been friendly.
Okay. So, well, a good thing is I know people there, so I'll put you in the right contact, so they'll
Right.
expedite it and they'll get you back on. So, because I'm sure, I mean, they invited you, right? So, and it was just a technical glitch. So,
There was just a miscommunication. For some reason, they thought they brought my site down because of quality control or something. And I was like, there's no way it was because of quality control. I've been on AdSense for years now and I've never had. Anyway, so just a miscommunication, I think, and hopefully I can get back on.
very good. Okay. Well, and overall, it sounds like Ezoic was delivering in terms of revenue, and you were making more than anything else you tried.
They really they did a great job of not only. So I had ad placements in all the wrong places. And they came in and their person set up all the, I don't even know what you call them, but the places where they put the ads. So I mean, it went from like a few dollars a month to $200 a month just on Ezoic. And I think if Ezoic were on the site now, I'm making $200 with AdSense. So it'll probably be like $500-600 or more just from Ezoic if I do end up being able to get them on. So.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get you back on there.
Sure.
Very good. All right, Beau, anything else on your mind?
No, man, this has been awesome. Thank you for having me. Yeah, this has been great. I hope I haven't been too.
No, it's my job to keep you on task here. So, very good. And I'm going to try to sign us out. So, thanks again to Beau. If you have any questions for him, you can leave a comment over on the YouTube side, or you can shoot me an email over at feedback@doug.show if you happen to be listening to the podcast. So, thanks again, Beau. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.